Hello, today I'm going to talk about part of the psyche, which is also part of the identity, that is usually called the higher self. Dr. Carl Gustav Jung called it the self, but I rather use the word higher self, even though some disagree with that term, is because this part of works or operates at a higher frequency, meaning it's linked to concepts that are of a higher frequency, like kindness, acceptance, understanding, unity, and compassion, empathy, intuition. So because it links to these particular concepts of the psyche, the idea of when you say a higher self, you mean the self or the part of you that operates at a higher frequency. Now, with this particular concept or part of the identity is not really understood much, in the sense that we try to understand some of its manifestations, but really I think possibly its manifestations are so beyond what we actually know now. Maybe later on we will understand more about it. But what is known till now is that this particular higher self is a very calm, tranquil part of ourselves, which usually operates and tells you what to do that is most beneficial to you in any situation. And it's not a self that, obviously, like the ego, it doesn't panic, it doesn't get scared. On the contrary, it's always calm, it's helpful, it's encouraging, and at the same time, it helps you connect with the other parts of you that helps you elevate your frequency. As we said, because of it connects with acceptance and compassion and empathy, which we talked about during the video about the heart, and this is causes a coherence in your electromagnetic frequency and intuition. This means it connects to other parts of your being that helps you have a more elevated frequency. Basically, it helps you connect to what is beyond yourself, beyond your being, meaning the universe and the cosmos. And at the same time, this particular part of yourself also organizes and in a non-commanding kind of way. It's more of like a nurturing kind of organization and order of the psyche, whether it's the ego, the archetypes, your conscience, your superego. It like connects the other higher parts of yourself, which we talked about, to those that might be affected by the external and have a lower frequency, like the ego and the superego. And the higher self has the ability to help us understand the meaning of unity, the meaning of oneness. You notice people who start to operate or connect to their higher self, they start to talk about unity and oneness and how everything is connected and how we're all one. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense to you if you're not really had that experience before. We all have a higher self, obviously, but when we operate mainly from the ego and towards the external, we don't listen to that voice that tells us maybe this is not very beneficial to you. It doesn't talk in right and wrong like the conscience or the superego. No, it talks about what is healthy and not healthy. It talks about things that are like on a scale. Like, this is more healthy to you than this. It gives you the idea that everything is possible to you, but for example, you have preference towards this, and from these preferences it gives you an option or options that this is more beneficial than this. The higher self does not think in duality, it doesn't think in this and that. Everything is possible to it, because it connects to everything that is possible. It may seem really unbelievable, but to the higher self, everything is possible. But because there are other parts of you, obviously, the ego and the superego and the conscience and the archetypes, and they all have a certain preference towards who you are as a being or your external preferences. As we said, the higher self sees things as all are possible. That's why when we operate from the higher self, things are not any more limited, because only ego sees things as limited or have some options. There's no limits. There's no limited options. That's why when we operate from the higher self, everything seems connected. Like, you can connect to anything. You connect to anyone. And all these, like what they call psychic abilities, seem much more possible, because if I am energy and someone else is energy, and I'm able to connect through thoughts because they're also energetic, then to me that's possible. To an ego basically living in this particular century, no, I only connect through online, through the phone, through talking to one another face to face. But to the higher self, since everything is connected to something else, it doesn't have this limitless. I can say it's limitless, but at the same time, it doesn't believe in any limits. Not that there's no boundaries or anything of the sort, but to it, whatever it can connect to, it would connect to. Another thing about the higher self is it not only tells you what is helpful to you or most beneficial to you, it would tell you what is most beneficial to others. The higher self, there's no needs, there's no really any wants to it, because everything is possible to it. There's no needs and wants, everything is possible. So to it, if you want to do something because your ego wants to do something, then it tells you what is possible to benefit you and benefit other people. That's why when you find people operating from the higher self, they tend to find ways to help other people, at the same time help themselves. Another question that might come to mind is there such a thing as a higher self where it's always calm and it thinks of what's best for you and for others? Why in the world do we have an ego? Good question. Really, that I have contemplated over many times. If there only existed the higher self and no ego, then life would be very different, because to the higher self, you don't really need or even want many of the things that you actually have around you. The higher self, you can survive. It doesn't concern itself with survival in the same way ego survives. It considers itself as like you just be. You just are being. You can live under a tree. You can eat from the tree. You can eat from the ground. You can, cultivate your own food. You can live in a cave. It doesn't think in a way that the ego thinks. I need a car, and a house, nice house, and a family. No, it can survive. To its survival and needness, it's a very simple thing. So without the ego, really, just having a higher self, you wouldn't want anything anymore or need anything, because none of it matters to it. Because everything, a simple flower can bring you a whole lot of happiness just contemplating it, But the ego, like, I need to eat good food, rich food, things like that. But the higher self, a few tidbits to survive, it's enough for it. So only having the higher self in this world, we will only, probably live in very meager ways and not care about much. It's about people only operate from the higher self that they may be hermits. They live somewhere really remote, very little needs, because they don't care about anything of that. And without the ego, we wouldn't care about many things that we have around us. We don't need any of it, honestly, but we convince ourselves that we need it. And so there's the place for the ego and the higher self. The higher self organizes the psyche, organizes the identity, and it helps the ego and the rest of your identity to be stirred towards something that is of a higher frequency than just operating from the ego. There are other things to say about the higher self, but this is a general overview about it. And if you want to know more, please, there's a lot of information that is present online, on books, and I will link to some things down below for you to read and to listen to. Until next time, bye. Take care.